Parenting and technology, does anyone remember?
Yeah.
I was only speaking, so I don't know. I just did this again for another class, or another one of our parenting classes, and so looked into more of the research, especially the stuff that's coming out in the secular world as far as what tech does to a developing brain. Starts to get a little scary that way, but how many of you have sat through me doing the parenting and technology talk? You all get gold stars. Good job. Good job. I don't want to cover everything again. Where are we at in the parenting spectrum as far as there could be any? How many are grandparents doing the grandparent? That's a fun one because you don't really have control on what the tech is in the home, but they are influenced by it when they show up at your house. You don't want to be that grandparent where it's like, don't send us over there. They don't let us use any tech. We just sit on the couch. That's a tough one. What about teenagers? You either are one, or you have one, or you saw one at one point. How about the babies? We have baby. Yeah, we have actual babies. Good example. What are the biggest challenges that you face, or biggest questions you have in this realm, parenting and technology?
What to have our grandchildren do once they're at our house when they live on their devices at home, instead of Monopoly or Chutes and Ladders.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Thank you.
My first response was, you can download both of those as apps now. So you don't really need. They can play on Monopoly and Chutes and Ladders. Yeah.
My two older sons want to know what age they have to be to get a cell phone.
Yeah.
I say never.
Yeah. Never old. Never years old. How old's your oldest?
11.
11. Oh, it's a big question. Yeah, because I'm sure. Is this him?
Yeah. So we said we won't even talk about it until he's 15.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, everyone has different sets. I know, we're talking about joy in community. In the church community, you, as parents, you're like, why don't we all get on the same page with this? Because your 12-year-old showed up at Sunday school with his new iPhone, and now my 12-year-old is like, when do I get an iPhone? It's like, as soon as you can afford $900. And so that's a huge one. What age do you... And because of when you give tech, it's a little different than when you allow them to use tech. There's a transition that happens when you begin to have the device on their own. What other questions are, yeah?
Safety and how not to overreact, if that's possible, having struggled with a friend through somebody who got to the dark side, and how dark it really is.
Is that a sexual, like pornography and...
Huge.
Yeah. The thing that makes, I think, us as humans respond negatively to advances and changes within technology and society are the things that scare us that we don't understand or know about. And now the big video that's being shown online, I don't even watch them because it creeps me out so badly. Because it's the video, usually it's a nanny cam or a baby's room, and a man starts talking to the children through it because he hacked into your home system and can see your kids and can start talking to your kids. I won't even click on it because I don't want to be creeped out. There's a new one that just happened because the girl started talking to him, and the mom had it all recorded, and those are the kind of things you're like, okay, no cameras in our house, and that's our first response. I'll solve that problem. No cameras in the house. The same is true with pornography. All right, no, we won't even allow the internet into our home. We're cutting all the cables. We're going to become cord cutters in a way that no one's even fully grasped. We're cutting every cord. The problem with those, and we all know what the problem is that pornography is a heart problem. Technology is ultimately a heart issue that we're trying to help our children with, which is obsessive compulsive things that we like to do, things that are not good for our development that we like to give ourselves over to. We're obsessive people and we like to get involved in things. We all have those from our past, but just because it's not the current stuff, we can sometimes label and judge it. What are the other questions? Because these are all very good. Yeah?
Do you have any thoughts on
technology in schools.
There's not much of a, no, it doesn't seem like there's much of a choice in how much your kids do.
Well, you have if you have a choice of if you send them to that school. The big argument right now is that in Silicon Valley's been leading the way for the past 10 years of a lot of the private schools aren't using technology until the age of 11, and they're encouraging for you to keep that toe the line at home if you want to send your kids to their school. The lie that's been diffused, which I think was fed, I'm 45, and so when I was a kid, and it was kind of kept being fed, was you got to expose kids to computers and technology early on, or we're going to get behind. We're going to be behind as a nation. We'll be, kids will get behind, and they won't figure it out. What we've proven with the handing an iPad or an iPhone to a 2-year-old is that no kid and no human will ever get behind if they're not afraid to try. The only way you get behind technology is that you're afraid to try. I'm afraid I'll break it. I'm afraid to touch it. Kids aren't afraid. You hand them, they'll start figuring out. You can watch kids who can't talk know how to use the home button, and you're like, oh, that's scary. So they diffuse that, and then the decision becomes, you have to make the call. Do you send them to an educational institution where they do that? And in Beaverton School District, where I'm from, the Chromebook's the huge thing. Middle school, you issued a Chromebook. High school, you're issued a Chromebook. Everyone has the Google educational suite where you can do the classes. There's a lot of positives to it, and obviously a lot of negatives. And so you kind of just have to weigh how they're using it and what they're using it for, and how filtered it is. But that's not an easy one.
What negatives have you seen with that interface with the school kids
The Chrome.
and the Google accounts?
I haven't. They keep that stuff. If the school's doing it correctly, they keep everything pretty locked down. And kids are so overexposed to technology. A Chromebook is not some magical device, and so it just becomes another tool for writing papers that keeps things in line. I love the idea. I teach a class, and I've started requiring that they all. Our school is a private school, and we haven't fully switched over to it, but I require they all share they have a paper that's due, they're seniors, a paper that's due, it's about a 12-page paper at the end of the year, and I have them all start it and just share it with me using their Google account. I can leave edited notes digitally on their paper, and I can see where they are in it, because I can see, I was like, you haven't even started, and so you may not get graded till the end, but you do not want to put this off, and so there's both sides of it, but I think it's more teaching the heart of what is behind these things that are just tools and not obsessions. What are some of the other questions? I'm just going to have you fill the time. So.
I saw a kind of scary documentary the other day, or part of it, about Wi-Fi signals, the effect that those things actually have on brains, and especially children's brains. Do you know anything?
I haven't done any studies on it. I fall asleep, I will take naps, and my phone will end up on my chest.
Right.
And I thought, like, when am I going to have a chest, like, they're going to be like, we've discovered a tumor right here. Like, I don't know what all the signals are doing. There's radiation coming from almost everything. And I haven't done any of the studies to see, I kind of avoid the stuff I can't control. That's just going to make me paranoid. So tinfoil hats may be the...
They were saying hardwire everything rather than using Wi-Fi signals.
Right. And I can't get, the amount of radiation in our homes becomes a whole different ballgame, even just with everything that we're using now. But those are things, those are the endless questions that we can try and figure out. I'll jump in, and I'll maybe skip ahead to some of the stuff that we've done in the past. And so if I'm skipping slides and moving, feel free to talk to me, or we can jump back in. The real question we need to ask ourselves, I think, as Christians, every time we engage with anything like this is, am I accepting life and culture with the default settings? Do I just enter life and culture and just, why do you have cable? Why do you have cable TV? Well, I thought I was supposed to have cable TV. Who told you that? That's a default life setting. Well, it's a family of origin issue. You grew up with cable TV, so how else will I get an unbiased news service? That's the only way I can, And so all the arguments we have. Why do you have a smartphone? We accept default settings all the time as Christians. So the real challenge is, as parents and as believers in general, is we just never want to accept the default setting. We always ask why. Why? What is that doing? What will this do to me? And I quote Dr. Ian Malcolm all the time. He's my favorite fictional doctor, besides House. But the Jurassic Park question it becomes more and more relevant the further we get down this road, which is your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. The CES 2020, who knows what that is? I just said raise your hand if you're a nerd. That's what I said. I follow it. It's the Computer Electronics Show. That's what it stands for, right? Every year, I get excited about it. Like
Consumer electronics show.
Consumer Electronics Show. That's you just got another star. The beginning of every year, they show you how outdated everything you bought last year was, and this is the stuff that's coming this year. It's like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's pretty. And so it comes out every year, and that's what the tech, the driving. They never talk about this question. They never think whether they should produce these things. It's just if they can produce these things, and showing off that they can pull it off. This is something I've showed pictures from this guy before. He continues to post them. He's a photographer, Eric Pickersgill. He did this series of photos of life with minor adjustment. He took all the tech out of photos. If you go through his whole slideshow, it's just fascinating to look at, because when you look at these, if you look at your average people sitting together with technology, and you take the tech out of the way, what does that picture show you? It looks really sad and lonely. You see, some of his other ones, my favorite, he has guys standing like this, like confused about the number of fingers they have. Because it shows how fixated we become on devices, to where you know, it's like I spent the afternoon on the couch with my daughter. Physically, maybe you're spending that time together. There's a concept of social disinhibition, and I'm going to read technological words that I'm quoting. I don't even know what they mean. I do know that what a functional MRI study is. So they did functional MRI studies are confirming decreased activity within the cingulate gyrus. If you're a doctor, don't do it. Just live with me. And that's the site that modulates empathy and emotion. Talent Smart is the world's top employment screener, and they are evaluating the emotional state of employees, and they've confirmed a progressive decrease in social awareness. And basically what we are discovering as a culture with technology is that what is not me is becoming even as having a greater and greater less value in our lives. If it's not about me or for me or focused right on me, I have very little interest in what is going on outside of my bubble. There's a decrease in empathy. And in fact, what they've discovering with college students today are 50% less empathetic than they were just 15 years ago. There's just this why should I care about other people or what's going on around me? It's not intentional, and it doesn't appear to even be mean-spirited in the nature of it. There just seems to be something that's lacking in our development that is getting stunted now, and it's so a device that's feeding us, and it's all about us and what we can do with it, is actually wiring our brains to be focused on me and what's in front of me, and not on us and those around me. One of the questions I got asked at the last class, because I started in high school ministry 20 years ago, and they asked, how have students changed? Because I'm not day to day actively involved, but I have high school students and I interact with them. They said, what are the biggest changes you've seen in 20 years? And I said, the way students interact with adults. That's the biggest change I've seen. I got questions, 1999, kids would ask, number one question, what do we call you? That was their big concern. Like, do we call you Pastor Mike, Pastor Arzie, Mr. Arzie? What do we call? And I would just tell them, well, whatever your parents want you to call me, because respect isn't built into our language. You can call a student can respectfully call me Mike with I'm okay with that, and so they would do that. When I'd walk down the hall, they would say, "Oh, hi, Pastor Mike," or there's be some type of acknowledgement of humanity. That's what I call it. It's largely missing from a lot of youth today. They don't acknowledge the humanity of the people that walk past them, let alone adults. I was taught, especially with adults, you're like, oh, hi, Mr. Detweiler. And when I started at the church, I was 24, and I referred to all the parents of the students as Mr. and Mrs. I used their names that way as a sign of respect, and I didn't want to assume that I was their friend, and many of them let me know that's true. I was not their friend. They appreciated my use of proper titles. And so those are things to think through. This is a picture I always show. It's the same photo from the same area in St. Peter's Square in 2005 and 2013. Pope Benedict's installment, Pope Francis's installment. And the only difference is the time in which it was taken. And you can see a dramatic change that happens in that time frame. And June 29th, 2007, I'm convinced that if kids aren't studying that date, they're going to be studying the date, June 29th, 2007. Because that's when it all changed. And you're like, and I don't, if you're one of the, you're like, oh, that was not the first smartphone. Okay, and the iPod wasn't the first MP3 player, I understand that. But it made the biggest splash, and it made the biggest difference. In fact, Time named the iPhone the single most influential gadget of all time in 2016. They're like, we're calling it now. It's the single most influential gadget of all time. And they gave a haunting quote about it. They said it fundamentally changed our relationship to computing and information, a change likely to have repercussions for decades to come. You're like, was that a negative or a positive statement? It's like, it's very neutral, and it will have repercussions for decades to come. And they said what really made the iPhone so remarkable was its software and mobile app store, which if you were around for it, didn't exist when it started. You just got the apps that came on it. The iPhone popularized the mobile app, forever changing how we communicate, play games, shop, work, and complete many everyday tasks. Is there an app for that? Isn't just a joke anymore. There literally is an app for that. I ordered Domino's pizza last night, just on my phone. I had another order that was already in there. My card was already in there. It was just hitting the button and place the order. I can save favorites, family, middle school kids, boys are over. I have a different order for that. It's all just in the app. You just take care of it. Is that better than going into Domino's, ordering at the counter, waiting, and talking to other people who were sitting there waiting for their pizza? I don't know. But it's changed the way I order pizza, and for that I'm okay with it. But they have changed us, and they are changing us, and they will change your kids, and that's something to think of. Here's the other picture I always show, because I'll see a lot of blogs where it's like, I was on the bus the other day and everybody was staring at their phones and nobody was talking to each other. It's like, well, it's a heart problem, and obviously commuting had a different, just pick up the paper. So there is a I just don't want to talk to people kind of deal going on there. The problem with the phone is that it encourages in a way a newspaper doesn't. A 12-year-old hasn't historically always carried a newspaper with them so that they can ignore every adult in the room when they're uncomfortable because they're around their parents' friends, or they're just in a new environment that makes them nervous. And rather than engaging with the nervousness or the discomfort, we can go back to what's comfortable and what's on here. And if you allow that culturally, then that becomes the norm. And so people don't get outside of their box, and you don't get challenged to greet adults and talk to them and interact with them. I won't go into this. I will just give a shout out again for the book that teaches us that parenting is not just hard, it's impossible. Because it's not something God sets up a task that only He can do in us and through us. If you think about what's required. Some of the hardest times in my life I will directly tie to the title of parent. Some of the most difficult situations you've ever been put in, I will tie. Some of the most difficult conversations I will tie to being a parent. Some of the greatest sorrow and heartbreak in our life will be experienced because we bear the title parent. And so just thinking that through, it's emotional, it's physical, it's spiritual. And it's one of the most glorious and beautiful and painful roads we will ever be called to walk down when we see God at work. The sanctification process that God uses in our own hearts, and then ultimately in the hearts of our children, wherever they are on the prodigal son spectrum, and however hard we're praying, whatever dark road they end up in, and then we have to interact with and get to enjoy them with. But that's the book, Paul David Tripp, Parenting, 14 Gospel Principles that can radically change your family. If you haven't read it, I would just encourage you. It emphasizes the fact that parenting is unnatural and therefore requires supernatural intervention to work. It requires God to be at work in your heart. To be a successful parent, I'm going to have something more in my take than warm feelings. You quickly realize that when you bring the baby home. They are joyful, but it'd be nice if I could get a night's sleep. I'd be a lot more happy with you in the morning. And so the challenge starts. I'm naturally impatient, unloving, and selfish. We just talked about this. I think of myself and my needs before I think of others. I am naturally a terrible parent. That's basically what my flesh confirms on a regular basis. And God must work in me before He'll use me to work in someone else. If you just think about discipleship, evangelism and discipleship, how amazing is it that God would choose to use you to bring someone to Himself and then to help them grow in what that means.
Amen.
And then to be blessed with a child. The first time we ever had a non-Christian live with us indefinitely was when we brought our son home. That was our first. I hadn't just invited non-Christians into our home. Just come live with us in community. Let's see how it goes. I felt forced to, by law, due to my connection with the little guy. But it was this process of like, all right, well, we're in this together. There was prayer, there was Bible study, there was a lot going on, and it's exciting. Moving on from there. Dr. C.J. Williams, professor of Old Testament studies. We use many technologies in everyday life to save time, but we rarely ask ourselves, save time for what? Is it so we can redeem our time in some way for God's glory, or just waste it more creatively? Still, I suspect that many of our time-saving technologies have only made us busier, sometimes to the detriment of our spiritual lives. And then Tim Challies on his website, in an article on the tyranny of technology, said, technology is largely a good thing, I'm sure. Anyone who has raised a child with the technology of cloth diapers and then raised a child with the technology of disposable diapers understands technological advances and how glorious they can be. As far as, don't use that bathroom, there's soaking going on in there. What are you soaking? Just don't go in there. And now to be able to throw it, and then to come up with something called a diaper genie. You can actually have a genie that just takes care of your diapers. You don't have to smell them. They just go whoop, and they make little cute chains, and it's glorious. So technology isn't always a bad thing. I'm convinced that part of our mandate for this world includes creating and enjoying new kinds of technology. God is a creator. We're created in His image. We are creators, and we're ambitious, and so we like to do these things. It's confirmation of that. But while these technological advancements can certainly do a lot to make life easier and better, they also have a way of making life more complicated. They extend our work days and worm their way into our leisure, at least if we allow them to. The big one that has to do, I'm trying to be honest with you. I'd say I'll say it that way, one of the biggest challenges with my high school students in technology was I need was the word, I need to listen to music when I study. And I was like, I can't listen to music when I study. So my wife said, and then my wife steps in, she goes, I almost always had to listen to music when I was studying, because it helped me focus. And I'm like, great. So, I was like, I'm in charge and I'm right. So that's it. So I was open to it. I was like, okay, we'll do music. Well, where's their music? It's on the phone. It's like, well, do I need to buy? I just bought my daughter a record player. Thankfully, those are in again. And so she'll go in her room and listen to records now. But with this concept, you have a device playing music that's going to be giving you alerts every 3 to 8 seconds if you're a 16-year-old girl. I've watched her phone. It just there's half of those have people on the other end. They're communicating with her. It's fascinating. I've even gone through and watched, let's watch what people are saying, what you're communicating with. And it's not as shocking. It's more just you feel sad for that group that's how they're communicating with each other, because it's so much work. I was like, why don't you just hang out and have this conversation? But I've also seen some wonderful, because of our kids' phones, this is a side note, I'll get back to this. Our kids' phones do not belong to them. I don't let them buy phones. It's not their, because it's their, I buy them a phone. I buy them, once they hit 8th grade, if you want what we did. Once they hit our first son was graduate 8th grade. Our daughter was start 8th grade, and they think our son was like getting close to summer before 8th grade. It was kind of like, well, it's a family plan deal, we'll just give him his. And frankly, he's the one that we could trust with it, because there's different temptations in different kids. And so it's in the same way that's my phone. You can have a passcode, you should, you don't believe it, but I need your passcode. If you change your passcode, I need you. Before you install an app, I need to know what app it is. I need to know who you're communicating with. I had to get involved. I was not a gamer. I was an NES gamer, but I didn't understand how it worked to have a gamer tag and then start playing online games and who you can interact with. So I had to learn all these things. And all I will say is, parenting is hard work. Stop trying to get out of it. Like if you're going to have video games in your house, figure out video games. It's your responsibility. And so we figured it out. Okay, you can game online, and only these friends that I've agreed that you can talk to are the ones that you can talk to. You can't hear other people. I need to show me how this works. And so you learn the process, you hang out, and get going. So it's my Xbox, it's my phone, it's my bedroom. I don't send them to their room. I send them to their assigned living quarters in my home that I pay for. Because I don't think that's a bad thing. I have Find My Friends on our whole family. Right now I can just tell you where everyone is approximately. Maybe not what part of the house, but if they're at the house or somewhere else. And some people think that's kind of creepy, like, well, you need to keep up with people. I said, well, it's really handy. I just know where everyone is by looking at the phone. Why would that be a secret that I would want to keep from my family, or that my kids would want to keep from me, where they really are, or where their phone really is? And so that's one thing that we do. So that's why I pay for it. That's why because it's mine, and they get to use it. So the 6-minute research from it's Adam Grassley at UC San Francisco School of Medicine, and what he has shown is that our brains require 6 minutes of undistracted engagement in order to focus deeply on a topic or thought. If you've ever sat down to read, if you've ever sat down to study, if you've ever sat down to watch a show, it takes something to get into it. It takes something going on. And what he's saying is that's an actual process that your brain goes through in order to get to a level where it can think deeply. A conversation often starts out chit-chatty, no matter how well you know the person. Because once you engage in a conversation, it takes a while to get to a depth that's involved in it, and it's part of just the way our brain works. So it takes 6 minutes of undistracted engagement in order to focus deeply on a topic or thought. And so it takes this long in a deep interpersonal conversation to be fully engaged. And the thing that's most shocking is each time a person is distracted or pulled out of that, the 6-minute timer starts over. And so what they're finding is, especially as far as reading comprehension, is that students don't have the ability to read for very long because they're not used to reading undistracted. Something is going to be alerting them and pulling their distraction away. And so it's very difficult for students to read today for very extended time because they're often interrupted. And what are some other things? From a study at San Diego State University, 20% of college class time is now spent interacting with smartphones. And so you're paying a lot of money to get a degree, probably in 5 years, not 4 years, that you don't really know if you're going to use, and you're spending a lot of the time on your phone. And what they're finding is, in a regular conversation or interaction, if you have a phone right now, if you have one with you, if the phone is out of sight with prompts turned off, so I silence my phone when I speak, I silence my watch so it doesn't give me alerts, and if it's out of sight, technically I have no excuse to not be fully engaged with what I'm doing anyway. I'll put it that way. I should be fully engaged. The second level, if the phone is upside down, because you'll see people, you've probably been in these meetings, you sit down to talk or have lunch or something, you set the phone down, but upside down. I need to see alerts. We're not that crazy. So you set it down, but if it's in sight with, still visible, you're partly engaged and you're open to disengagement. If the table buzzes, that's how it usually works when you're having one of these, everyone goes like this. That wasn't me. Was it you? And then if the phone is held face up or in the palm of your hand, you're completely disengaged. I am no longer actually talking to you. I'm just saying words. And then it's snuggle season. That's what Target just told me on this little pop-up. So that's everything that's been going on while I've just been up here. I got a Google Calendar. Nike wants me to buy something. And someone's trying to cancel their Xfinity on the Nextdoor app and wanting to help with it. Yeah.
It's a little bit off of technology itself, but the 6 minutes, does that involve like prayer time as well? So the first 6 minutes really isn't engaged.
You're on what they're discovering, you're on the road to engagement. You're just not at your full level of interacting with something until that time goes on. I mean, it's like anything in science. They're studying brain activity, trying to figure out exactly how it works. The findings seem to align with how we experience things. So, but I think it's true of anything. I was told early on in my discipleship, I asked the guy who was discipling me, because we were talking about Bible study, and I said, well, what do you read? Because I had heard, like, start your day with Scripture, get right into Scripture. He goes, I never start with the Bible. He goes, I always read another devotional book or something. He goes, because my brain's kind of a fog, I'm just getting going, so I just start reading that, drinking some coffee, and then after 5 or 10 minutes, I switch to the Bible, because then I'm primed and ready and real, because that's what I want to be into. And I thought, well, that's good. I guess that's kind of answering your question a little bit. I mean, pray for longer than 6 minutes. Maybe that's it. That's not a bad. Yeah.
I'm curious, going back to the empathy piece and the thoughts on with the millennial generations, probably more the college age than high school age, but just the kind of the hashtag activism stuff and sort of that desire to be part of a cause and look like you're part of a cause.
Yeah.
How does the rise or fad of that kind of coincide with the lack of empathy? Because in the hashtag activism, it looks like you're empathetic towards whatever cause you're behind.
Right.
I mean, the studies I've seen is that it's not really because they care about the people in the cause. They want to look like they care.
Right.
I'm curious how you.
Right. Well, there's a technical term for it. They call it slacktivism. It's activists who are slackers. You're just like, I'll wear the bracelet and I'll post the French flag on my. We're unified with France. Why are you unified with France? Not really sure. Everybody. I'm not sure. Did something happen in France? Maybe. Was it bad? Maybe. I just know I'm unified with them. And I think the pressure from the LGBTQ, and I'm speaking of that not as a gay, not as an individual who's struggling with their sexual identity. I'm talking about the LGBTQ political movement. Has largely made it so that you obviously are going to post a rainbow, you're obviously going to show that you are LGBTQ friendly. We'll get that question as a church. That'll be, are you LGBTQ friendly? And my answer is, we invite anyone to come and be a part of our church. Now, it's going to require some conversations on what that looks like if you really are serious about becoming a follower of Jesus Christ and what the gospel really calls us to and what Scripture really says about these things, because that's the individual. But the political movement has caused a lot of people to claim to hold to things that I don't think everyone really holds to these things, but the political movement is gaining so much steam and snowballing on us that as a culture, it's just kind of gone so quickly and so fast that people haven't realized what we've even done. The church has, I think, more than others, because they're like, let people love, love wins, that's fine, and move on. But I think the slacktivist mentality is where that kind of comes from. But I think there's a positive to it, that there is a movement. They have the opportunity to be more connected with their world and opportunities around the world than any other generation before. And so I think that's the positive for Gen Z. If you really are raising up a gospel warrior, their ability to understand global missions, to be involved in global missions, and to do all of that without going anywhere or figuring out where they're called to go to is at an unprecedented level. And so I think that's the double-bladed sword that we're all dealing with on a regular basis. Let me see. We often talk about boredom. Boredom is a modern condition. The Tech-Wise Family by Andy Crouch, fantastic book. If you're wanting a good overview of this and trying to deal with these things, it's fantastic. Boredom is a modern condition. The technology that promises to release us from boredom is actually making it worse, making us more prone to seek empty distractions than we've ever been. In fact, I've come to the conclusion that the more you entertain children, the more bored they will get. And he goes on, we now have the technology to be perpetually distracted from boredom, and thus we never realize how bored we really are. Boredom is actually a crucial warning sign, as important in its own way as physical pain. It's a sign that our capacity for owner, no, I gotta look that up. That can't be owner. Our capacity for something that looks like owner and delight, contemplation and attention, real play and fruitful work has been dangerously depleted, to where a flickering screen has kind of taken our attention away from the things that really matter. The question we need to ask ourselves is, am I solving the kids' problem with technology, or am I using technology to solve my problem and to get out of parenting? And am I solving a problem for the moment? Am I teaching them how to deal with the same moment in the future? Shopping's a big one, because this is where I see it, and this is what I've experienced. Shopping's hard with kids, because it requires you're on a task, you're doing something, there's a kid, at least one in a cart, maybe one outside the cart. They didn't ask to come on this shopping trip, generally. When will it be over? Is there toys? Can we look at them? Can we buy that? Why don't we buy that? Can we buy this? Can we buy, and you're trying to do your thing. The easiest thing would be just to hand them. If I said I have a rock that you can give any kid while you're shopping, and they'll just stare at it the whole time, won't say a word, and when you're done, you can just take the rock back, and they'll be back to being a kid again. You'll be like, I'll pay you whatever you want for that rock, if you'll give it to me. Well, we have it in the phone. But whose problem are you solving? And when you hand them a phone and a cart, you see this a lot if you just look for it, in grocery stores especially. Kids staring at phones. I think there's going to be a whole generation of kids who don't know how to use grocery stores, because they've never looked around in one. They've just I know how to get into a cart, and then it kind of goes blank on me. I don't know.
But they will know how to order on Instacart.
Yes. That's the new technology, is that they just wait in the car, probably watching the video screen of a DVD, while someone brings the groceries out to them. It's a question we always have to ask ourselves as parents. Am I teaching them how to deal with that same moment in the future? Am I giving my child the ability to respond to future circumstances similar to this one with wisdom? Or am I transmitting wisdom that will help them? I've sat through boring speakers before. I just lean on Dad. It'll be over. I'm going to be okay. I always survive. Those types of things. Because you never know when they're going to start getting engaged in a talk. I used to read scripture to our infants. They didn't understand English, let alone a translation of Greek into English. But the moment they understood English, they would be hearing scripture. And that's a beautiful thing. And so are we raising up people who will now have more wisdom to deal with situations, or are we just using technology to short-circuit our own parenting? We can inadvertently stunt creativity, the acquisition of wisdom, and character development. A lot of my creativity comes from the fact that I had to come up with stuff to do. That's what kids are saying. I'm bored, and I really don't want to put a lot into not being bored, so please help me. I would hang off, one of my favorite things to do is hang off the couch, or I'd go into a room and hang upside down and imagine our house flipped up, and I'd move my feet, pretend like I was walking on the ceiling. What would that look like? And then the chandelier, it looked like a big mushroom, and it was kind of, and then I was like, well, wait, if there's no gravity, actually it'd be smashed. And I was like, well, no, we'll just pretend it would be a mushroom. And you're walking, and then it's walking on popcorn ceiling, that would hurt, and you'd never do popcorn floors, and all of this stuff because I didn't have anything to do, and so I was just hanging upside down. Or we would get on our bikes and ride around the neighborhood and never tell our parents what actually happened. I had to be home by 5:30. Do you know what would happen if I showed up after 5:30? I don't know, because I never showed up after 5:30. I have no idea what would happen. I've talked about things as an adult. You've all experienced this around my mom, and she's like, "You did what?" And I was like, "It doesn't matter now. We're all here. We're all here now. That's the important thing." And the other thing they gave me was responsibility. We could change a flat tire so fast because we were constantly popping our tires, and that was our means of moving around the neighborhoods. And so you had to have the tire going. And now what I think we've done, we're stunting creativity, acquisition of wisdom, and character development because we're trying to shelter and protect kids from anything and everything. Our playgrounds are so sterile. Like playground challenges, go and try and injure yourself. Go try and hurt yourself. Like, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do it. The free play concept is gone. And so that's a difficulty. Here's the other thing. We're running out of time. I'll just add a few things. As a human, relationally, your child is telling you, "I want you, and I want you all the time. I want this connection all the time." As they age, they'll tell you other things that seem to imply the opposite. But humanly speaking, I want you all the time. And then the real question is, are we available to our children all the time? Because the real question about technology for some of you is not your kids' use of technology, but your use of technology. The one thing I've discovered to know how you'll stay out of someone else's Facebook post is never check your phone when you're at the playground with your kids. There are so many people who have been, "I was at the playground the other day and the mom just sat there on the bench with her phone." And I'm like, well, maybe you don't know what's going on in that person's life. But there is a certain level of engagement. And I'll try and find the stat here. I think it's on the next slide. But if you think about what this text implies, the Lord, hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Then what do we do with that love? Well, these words which I'm commanding you today shall be on your heart. So what do? You teach them diligently to your sons. Talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. There's the necessity of verbal communication is at the backbone of the spiritual health of the family unit. Satan would love to disintegrate, and that's what we're seeing in our culture, the disintegration of the family unit as it has historically been seen. And the verbal communication permeates every area of our life and should permeate every area of the interaction we have with one another in our home. Let me see. Here's a couple questions to think about. Are we as a family creating memories or consuming memories? Is our family a family of creators or consumers? Think about the home, how the home's changed through the years. The Industrial Revolution, labor-saving, mechanized technologies. Home went from, home was originally a place of creation and culture and cultivation. You saw mom and dad working in the home. Industrial Revolution, tech moving in. Home has now become for leisure and consumption is what home, if you accept the default settings. Home is for leisure, home is for consumption. And that's what it's become. And it changes the way kids interact with their adults. It changes the way that kids interact with their parents. Think about the technology of cars. Just that one, the automobile. My dad would work on cars. He would work on our car. He would take a car to the mechanic, but some of the easier stuff he would do. And if you take like a 2020 car and go out there with anyone who knows anything about automobiles, it's going to be pretty difficult to even find the spark plugs, let alone, the technology becomes to such a point where it becomes very difficult for you to see your dad working on anything because dads don't even know where the spark plugs are. We got a new car, and he's like, well, this one's a little tricky because you actually have to pull the engine almost out to get to the spark plugs. And I was like, who designed that? And he's like, somebody who wanted you to bring the car back when it needed the spark plugs. And so you don't see dad doing a lot of things. You don't see mom doing a lot of the things. The two-income homes, you see a lot of tired moms and dads working really hard, out of sight and out of mind. I don't really know what they're going through, and so there's a disconnect that happens just with that side of technology. And so how much leisure and consumption do we want in our house? How often do you stop when you get home and just pray in the driveway, God, you know what I want to do. I want to be by myself. I want to go recharge. And I am tired and I'm worn out. I had very difficult meetings today. And then we pray, God, but I know what I have to do, and I need you to work in me and through me, because I'm about to interact with my family, and I need your power right now. Please do whatever it takes. And then, use of caffeine or whatever is required to engage the Holy Spirit fully, we do it, and we move forward. And so we show our kids perseverance, we show our kids hard work. I will close with some of these things. The World Health Organization recommends no screens under the age of 1. 0. No screens for a child until they're 1. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends only FaceTime with family members between the ages of 1 and 2. The only screen that they would see would have a family member on the other side of it. A child who's 1 year old, a 1-year-old child can begin to play peekaboo with a face on a screen. And if your child can do it earlier than that, good for you. Unless you were using too much technology with the sub 1-year-old. After the age of 2, only educational material viewed with a caregiver for less than 1 hour a day during the preschool years. So up through age 5. Educational, and they call it real life, at the real life speed of life. So if you're watching a video, it's a video of real life and things that happen in real life, not quick cuts and things that are flashing and things that are exciting and moving you all over. But you're showing children at that age that. And because they say without human role modeling, there's a loss of emotional bonding. Here's a pretty scary one. Functional MRI studies have already shown that infants can detect disengagement of their parent on a phone by 6 months of life. An infant there's a change in the child's brain waves of a parent who's holding the child and looking at a phone and a parent who's holding the child. I shared this at a class, and a good friend of mine, a woman who she's grandma age now, but she came up, she was around a young couple. And the dad was trying to feed the baby and looking at the phone, and the baby's doing this, and he kept looking out. The mom was sitting over the couch on the phone, and the woman, she's like, do you want me to help? I could feed them. And the mom yells from the couch, she goes, she takes forever to eat. And she's like, well, she seems to be trying pretty hard to eat, and because it's boring to hold a baby. You got to have something to flick through. Because we accepted the default. We didn't stop to think through how glorious that is to hold that child. I have 13, 16, and 19, and I don't hold any of them while they eat. It's just, it's awkward for everyone. But there was a beautiful phase where I held them for everything, and they would come to me for everything. And there's a physical connection. They say subsequently there's a loss of ability to quietly reflect, to develop language skills, and to cope without the need for distraction when we expose sub 5-year-olds to too much tech early on. I know you need to get to the beach. It's a beautiful day, so I don't want to keep you. I walked down there right before that morning session. Man, that was it's definitely a quiet. No people out there. Let me see. There was another stat I was going to give you. If I don't find it here, I'll just give it to you later. Social media, video games, man, there's so much. I've talked about phubbing, which is snubbing people with your devices. That's something to help your kids with, that's for sure. Or to help us with. I think I could just end with that slide. This is from Crouch's book. He emphasizes purposeful and rare versus aimless and frequent. This applies to the grandparent. The use of technology and screens. Are we going to be, our family has sat down, we watch it together. It's the only TV show I think I'd say it's the only TV show we've watched as a family, because we've been in the era where you just don't do that anymore. We used to do that as kids. I told my kids that. I'd like run to the bathroom during a commercial break because you had to get back, because that was it. They're just going to show it. And so we started watching the Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian, because it's Star Wars and my family has to watch that. And so we started watching it, and it was the first streaming show they were only releasing an episode a week. Netflix used to, if you were familiar with it, they released the whole season. So you could sit down for 4 hours and just knock it out. And you're like, all right, let's move on. And my kids, we got done with the first episode, it was like 30 minutes. They're like, we can play the next one. I was like, oh, it's not till next week. Like, next week? I was like, next Friday, we'll all sit down together and watch it again. Next week? It was like this, like, who does TV this way? But make it purposeful and rare. My daughter just had her wisdom teeth out, and so it was don't want to do a lot of activity. So she sat down and with my wife, and they both watched. I forgot what they watched together. They watched some season of a series she wanted to see. They've never sat down on the couch together to binge watch TV, but you have an excuse. You're together. They were talking and interacting, and it was purposeful and it was rare versus aimless and frequent. It's a good way to model that in your home as your use of screens. I would say screens and not technology as far as that goes. So we're late now, but any other questions?
You mentioned the grandparents, so I think of my parents, my kids can eat whatever they want there.
Yeah.
I don't care at all. They have ice cream there, it's a wonderful time there. And we also, on screen time, pretty much tell my parents, have a wonderful time with them, have at it.
Yeah.
Because but is that, maybe screen time should be different than, say, sugar, or candy, or suckers, or popsicles, if they allow that stuff.
Yeah. But it sounds like you have multiple issues going on there.
I have 5 kids, if someone will take them.
Feed them whatever you want. It's more from the grandparent side of things. But the grandparent who's like, the kid gets there and all they want to do is sit on their device, and you want to spend time with your grandkids. The grandparenting is hard work too. That's my answer to that one. And it's going to take hard work. Shopping with a kid is hard work. You're going to have to come up with games. You're going to have to talk about cows. Where does milk come from? Where do eggs come from? How do cows lay eggs? No, it's just in the same section. It's not really. Do cows lay cheese? No. It's not, you're having all these crazy conversations that you could consider to be a distraction and annoying. Paper dolls. You can pull technology out of the past that they've never heard of. You're like,
They're 15.
that's tougher. Yeah, 15's tougher. I didn't know that. Yeah, if you have little kids, the little grandkids are the easy ones. Because I'll say this, real life and real people are always going to be superior in experience to anything you find on a screen. Just because they want to spend time on the screen doesn't mean that's where the superior experience is. And so a lot of times it's convincing them there's a superior experience than just being on the screen. I have a friend, he's 30, and he said, he said I was going to post a picture of a Pokemon screen on a Nintendo DS and put, which he went through 2 different national parks. And he said, all I saw was a Pokemon screen, because he sat in the back seat playing Pokemon the entire time in both the parks when he was a kid. And so this is pre-smartphone and everything, but those are the things we can, like, you'll miss the entire world around you. Control the car time, control the nap time, control the bedtime. How do we interact with one another? And it's going to be hard work, and I think we just have to agree to do it. I'll stop there. We could just keep talking. I'll stay here and talk if you want to stay here and talk, but I'll stop and pray for us. Father, thank you for the privilege that we have of understanding that the world you created is not the way you intended it. And thank you for the knowledge that we have of understanding that the way that we find ourselves in our hearts and the people around us are not the way you intended it. That we are broken and we're in a broken world. And we see echoes of your glory and beauty in the way things were meant to be. And we see promises of a future where things will be set right. And we find daily in Jesus Christ the privilege it is to know that you are working to make us just like our Savior. And so we thank you for the process of sanctification. We thank you for the beautiful pictures of the home that you have given to us and the privilege that we have to welcome these little humans into our lives and to pray for them and to raise them and to see you work in their hearts and lives. And that's done differently, and it has different outcomes and different processes, and it has some dark valleys, and it has some incredible mountaintops. And so we thank you for your faithfulness in all of that. And so give us wisdom, and give us diligence, and give us a desire to not just accept life's default settings, but to always ask why and how we should engage with the world around us. And so we thank you for this day that you've given to us now in Jesus' name. Amen.